Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kim. If you're new here, tonight's video is going to be all about the high cost of fear. I started selling things on Facebook Marketplace recently that, we're trying to get things moving out of the house so that we have less to pack up when we move. And I did notice that there was an awful abundance of items for sale that had to do with, surviving whatever it was. There's a lot of things that people had fear over the last few years. Prior to the pandemic, and then post-pandemic, and then since then, whether it be the economy, their neighbors, the community they're in, who they are, whether they're employed or unemployed, gearing up for the recent election, all of it. People have maybe, I guess, in a way, gotten a few things confused as far as most people around in this area don't call it pantry I'm preparing a pantry, or I'm stocking a pantry, or I'm buying provisions and that for, 3 days or a week or 2 weeks, just in case we lose the lights or whatever. Most people in this area, surrounding areas, call it a stockpile. And a stockpile, of course, as we all know, and I'm not going to give the exact definition, but it's buying and buying and buying and piling and piling and piling stock. So whether you're stockpiling food or wood or munitions or whatever the case may be, stockpiling. And I think that a lot of people were worried about various things throughout the last few years, and with that worry came the fear that stores were going to close, there was not going to be any more food for them. And so whether it was just one person, two, or a whole family of people, they needed to get enough food for more than just a couple of days or a weekend or a week's worth of whatever it was that was going to come. Most of the people that I asked questions of, talked to, and some of the responses I seen when I didn't ask questions, but other people did, in groups that I used to belong to, don't have much time anymore, but groups that I used to belong to, was people were buying food because they were not so much worried the lights would go off for a couple of days or a few days, not so much that they were worried there was going to be a tornado or some kind of type of a weather situation, even not so much that they were scared that they may lose their job, or they may not have enough money, or prices might go up. They were scared that the stores would empty of food, that a semi would pull up, or that a large group, whether it be a religious group or some other sort of a group that's formed in the area or in the state, would come to a local Walmart and would clear the shelves. And a lot of them did leave links to videos and documentaries and shows they'd watched and news sources and so on and so forth that were, at the time, maybe still, gearing them up for these situations. And I guess I decided to make a video kind of maybe explaining. I've made a blog post as well. In my life, I've studied like old homes, pantries, provisions, frontier life, life in the wild, wild west, whatever. And I found it very interesting. I found how when people came to this country, what they had at hand, what they hunted and fished for, how they preserved food, all the way up to the current time. And in doing that, and then at the same time trying to sell stuff on the marketplace and seeing all of these people trying to sell camping stuff, not just your general, the season's over and I'm going to sell my camping stuff, but large amounts of camping stuff, clothes for life outside of a home, whether you are homeless or you're just on the run, campers, RVs, sleeping bags, furniture, bins and pails and plastic different things for large quantity food storage, freezers, both small little apartment-sized chest freezers to large freezers. Some people saying, that they had went out and bought 2 or 3 refrigerators with freezers and their electric bill is killing them now. Some people that have said that they can't, there is no way that they're going to be able to buy the type of fuel that you would need to run a generator, so they're getting rid of, I've seen people giving away the food and the meat out of their freezers to people just basically emptying out their pantries or their cupboards and stuff like that with food that's about to expire. And all I can sit and think about, looking at some of the prices that people are asking, in some cases people just giving the meat away. It's been in freezers for 2 or 3 or 4 years. is the high cost of fear. These, people, and we all go through those types of situations where we're afraid that the price of this or that is going to go up. Or in my case right now, afraid that, how much is that rent going to go up? We have the plan A if it goes up this much, plan B if it goes up this much. But I mean, you can't keep, for whatever reason, if it becomes too expensive, we can't develop a plan in order to just live with it. So you either have to, your next plan needs to be pack up and leave. Your next plan needs to be pack up and relocate. And that's, what we're looking at, because if it goes up past the threshold of what we're willing to pay, what we can pay, what we can safely or securely pay, that's the only other option. It's the same when people are afraid, they go out and they're afraid that the shelves are going to be cleared off. It's something that in my lifetime at 60 years old, I've never seen. I am from a part of the world where I grew up where we didn't even have a grocery store. We still had a mercantile. And until I graduated high school, we had just gotten a grocery store in the town 1 year before I graduated high school. Otherwise, my mom was still going to a butcher to get our meat and a mercantile to get dry goods. I don't think there was, I can even remember the year that pizzas came out, where pizzas were offered in our area. I grew up near a bar. We had in the little holler or valley that we lived in, we had a nightclub, a supper club. And there was a lot of those around at the time. And I can remember when they first got their first delivery of, I think it was Tombstone Pizza, and how everybody was just crazy about having a home store-bought pizza. And so, and bar food became very popular because they started getting the hamburger patties, the frozen hamburger patties, and frozen fries and stuff. And that just took off like crazy. Part of the things that I've studied over the last 20 or some years, I'm not an expert or professional, is, early pioneers, early settlers. When they came here, what did they bring with them? What did they have? What was available? What was growing? What was sold at the mercantiles? How did they build their pantry? What kind of pantry did they have? I made a blog post over on my blog all about pantries. I guess I'm going to probably dedicate quite a bit of that blog to pantries, early settlers, all the way up to the present time. I mean, what does that word mean, to have a pantry, or to have a rotate your stock, rotate your food, have a working pantry, just have provisions on hand for a week or two. I will have some links in this video, and I'll definitely have some links in my blog post. One of the things that I read just recently is start out with 3 days. Like I said, in my lifetime, I've never even been anywhere where we lost power for more than a day maybe, and I've lived all over the Midwest, in big cities and small cities. I've never been anywhere where a flood has stopped us from going to the grocery store. From 2020 to 2023, there was never a bare shelf in this area. Yes, there was things that were out of stock that the store was waiting on the box or the delivery to come in, but there was always bread, there was always meat, cheese, eggs, milk. There's always produce. Nobody went without anything around here. And the food pantries, for those that couldn't afford to go to the store, were always full. The government and whoever, churches and such, always made sure that the food pantries were full. So nobody went without food. So I've been in tornadoes and flood situations where within 24 hours we had something to drink. Yes, I've been in situations where I've had, maybe had the lights off for, 24 hours when I was growing up, if that, and, maybe 48 hours since I've been a full-grown adult, maybe past the age of 40. I've spent 2 days without electricity. But as far as in this area of the Midwest, and that the most that we would have would be, yes, floods. And I've seen floods in this area where people lost their pantry, lost their provisions, lost their stockpile, all of it. We saw in North Carolina, no matter how prepared the folks in North Carolina were, they lost everything. They lost their livestock, their home, their garage, their outbuildings and stuff, everything. Their ammunitions, their knives, their sleeping bags, their freezers, and everything in them. We've seen years ago in Katrina where people just were on their roofs as their houses were flooded with water. Any provisions or pantries or things that they had put aside for a rainy day or for when the lights went out or whatever was washed away, was flooded, was done, was tore down and burned later on. And so I think that, through all these different fears that we've had, that we're going to lose electricity, or that the waters are going to rise, or the government's going to do something, or the economy's going to crash, or whatever, I think we spend a lot of time going out and just buying with money that realistically, a lot of us, I know during 2020 and 2022, up to those 2 years, there's a lot of things that we had to go out and buy ourselves that were very costly. That we were concerned about our health, and we were concerned about both working out in the real world and not being at home. My husband, for sure, never being at home, having to work amongst people on a regular basis, and bought different things to keep ourselves healthy, different medication, supplements, and whatnot. And it cost us quite a bit of money. Now, those had dates on it that were 2 or 3 years long, and so we've gone through them and used them up. But most of this canned goods and stuff that we bought, I was always hoping and praying that the grocery stores wouldn't run out of money, because I wasn't going to, you know, let my health suffer by eating, macaroni and cheese or whatever for days on end. So I think that, there's just mixed messages and mixed signals from whether it's groups or friends or coworkers or news sites, stations, papers, whatnot, that kind of confuse us that, in any situation that's going to last more than 72 hours, either help's going to come, or then it means that we're in such a dire situation that having a freezer full of meat isn't going to do us much good. If you don't have hydration, you don't have any means of getting clean water, then cupboards full of canned goods or macaroni and cheese or rice or lentils isn't going to do us any good. So this one site that I found said, start with 3 days. The lights go out 3 days. Work it up to 2 weeks. And look more at your pantry as being what it was intended to be at one time. And that was, as far as in my grandmother's time, everything that was in her cellar was potatoes and root vegetables, and that was so that they survived throughout the winter when they didn't have a garden to go to and get that stuff from every day. All the canning that she did was so that they could eat. The tomatoes were for casseroles, because I grew up in Minnesota, but the fruits and stuff like that were so that they had nutrition, so they had vitamins throughout the winter, the cold winter months in Minnesota. And she did pickles because those were good for your gut. They knew all about ferment, sauerkraut, and stuff like that. So that's what her cellar was. And as far as her pantry, well, the pantry was stocked with rice and flour and sugar and salt. And there wasn't a canned good in sight, except maybe sometimes there was a can of condensed milk or carnation milk or something like that for casseroles or for baking and such. And I'm sure that there was probably a can or two of soup. When I was growing up, my mom's pantry was just for baking. She didn't stockpile, all kinds of food or anything. Our freezers held the meat that we would eat within a 30-day or 60-day period of time, and that was it. And as far as my pantry, it's always been basically a working pantry. When I can find things that are on sale and stuff like that, whether it be salt or pepper or flour or sugar, that I'm going to be using up in a reasonable time, well, that's what I would put in my pantry. If you're looking at canned goods, I know a lot of people don't care about Best Buy or any of those dates that are on stuff, and I'm with that. I ate a container of yogurt one time here in the last 2 years that was 2 months old, and I survived. I don't know how, but I did. And I wouldn't recommend it, but there you have it. I survived. And I don't really follow the Best Buy or the best used by date or anything like that. I know that's controversial as to whether people do or not, but I've had eggs when they're past the date, and I've ate bread when it's past the date, and I've even drank a glass of milk when it's past the date. And still live to tell about it. But when you talk about canned goods sitting in a pantry someplace in fluctuating temperatures, it's degrading. If you talk about you've canned down some tomatoes or something, but you don't have air conditioner to keep those cool, or you don't have heat in the wintertime. Well, they could crack because they freeze, and they could the food could degrade in a canning jar if it gets too hot in your home or apartment or wherever you have it, if it isn't being kept cool. Most things should be kept in a cool, dark place. And we've done carrots and stuff like that in sand. You can do carrots even in your garage as long as it doesn't get too cold. You can do carrots, potatoes, and beets. And when it's heads down for the minus, you just go and throw a tarp over it. You can keep root vegetables and like that fairly good if you kept them in nice, if you picked them at a good time when they're not already halfway rotten. Stick them in sand and then cover them with the tarp if it gets too cold. And of course, obviously, use them up in a timely manner. You know, you wouldn't want to put them in a cold, dark place in October and then still expect that they're going to be okay in March or April. Um, it's just all kinds of things that I think there's a lot of mixed messages that have caused a lot of people to go out and be in a, a panic situation where they purchase things they can't afford. And I think that it's time that, videos were made and information was passed to people of more frugal ways, more sustainable ways to have the things that you might need should there be a 3-day emergency or a 2-week emergency or even a month. And I know people in this area, a lot of other areas, I belong to groups that were all across America, were worried about zombies. If that's something that you're worried about, just know that there's not going to be any zombies, and if they come, it's not going to matter how much food you have. They're going to make their way in. I don't know if you've watched The Walking Dead or whatever. It doesn't matter how battened down the hatches are. When they want to get into your house that's maybe full of canned goods, they're going to get you. So, and if you're into that kind of stuff, make sure you watch it by the time you're 60 or so, because I used to love that kind of stuff, horror movies, gore movies, whatever. And as soon as I hit about 55, I no longer could watch that stuff anymore. So it bothers me, and it kind of makes me queasy to even think about it. But that was in groups. That was real live people, our fellow community members and fellow human beings that were worried to death about stuff like that. So no shame to them. There's all kinds of things that you can be worried about, and people are. And so if you're going to be worried, I think it should be more to the practical so that you don't bankrupt yourself while you're out trying to be prepared. So it's basically what this video is about. I'm going to show you some staples following a lady that teaches emergency preparedness / also teaches, what type of items should you be sure that your pantry contains, whether it be a working pantry, whether you do live in an area where you have weather situations all the time, or whether you are worried, you have a low income or no income, or you have food insecurities, you want to stay healthy, and you want your pantry to contain healthy things that are good for you. I've got some items that she shared in her blog post that you should definitely make sure that you have in your working pantry. But I think there should be a distinction from other people working and moving forward, and I'm sure there is out there. I'm just making my video where it kind of makes a distinction between panic buying and bankrupting yourself, and then having and buying things where you have to keep the heat on all the time, or the air conditioning on all the time, or you have to go out and invest in generator after generator to keep your food in good shape, when the likelihood of you having any type of situation that would require you to bust into your freezer for your 2 or 3 year supply of frozen food is probably not going to happen anytime too soon. And in the meantime, you could have that money, and you could also have the cost that you're using on energy, either to spend on whatever it is that you want to spend on, or to save. And that's kind of how we do things around here. I know I've had a lot of comments and questions that we eat pretty sparingly in that. I assure you, I've never missed a meal, and my husband hasn't either, and we both eat very well. But we've got a lot of things to put our money into, and to stockpile, or to become afraid that something's going to happen where we need to load our apartment up with food that eventually will rot, or eventually will expire, or could possibly make us sick for eating it on a regular basis, is not one of the things that we're working on. So I hope you're all well. This video is just about this subject. My following video is going to be a little bit happier and a less intent on trying to get my point across. I do talk this way with friends, and I do talk this way with coworkers and my husband. I learn a lot on the internet. I always feel blessed about the internet, and definitely feel blessed about YouTube, and like to impart some of that knowledge before my end of days. But it's been very interesting to me to read the big differences between what our ancestors, our great-grandparents, our grandparents, how they prepared for whatever may come, and how we today in 2024 prepare. And yes, there are different things that we prepare for now, obviously, that they may never have had to think about back in their time. But the distinction of what our ancestors or our grandparents felt was some, what food they wanted to eat in order to stay healthy, in order to stay alive, versus the food that we seem to want to clear the shelves of, is the difference between night and day. And the cost for us, especially for these people on Facebook Marketplace that are trying to part with these items now because they were scared to death to buy them, and now they can't afford Christmas or wood for their wood burners or clothes or whatever, is very sad. And if I can prevent one person from just going all out and finding themselves bankrupt because of being afraid, that will be worth the whole point of this video. So I will show you those items that are talked about in a blog post I recently read. I will leave the links below. I hope you're all well, and I'll see you back here. This video is going to go out on Sunday, and the next video is going to go out on Tuesday. And the video on Tuesday is going to be about my husband and my decision not to buy Christmas gifts, and that's a good thing. But also it's going to include some wonderful stocking stuffers or gifts that we found for under $10 for your Christmas. Okay, here are some items. A couple of them surprised me that were in the blog post that I'll have a link for below. To always have in your pantry. It's a working pantry. These would be items that you would eat on a regular basis, move them on out of the pantry, and then replace as you grocery shop. So nothing would go out of date. Everything would stay, as good as it can be. If you're interested in rice, I think she has a way to can rice. So if you want larger portions of rice, obviously a family would need much more than I have pictured here. But for my husband and I, a bag of rice like this is just fine for a month, even more for us to eat off of. So her big thing was protein, protein, protein. So Power bars, this is the kind my husband ate Cliff bars for years and years. These are better. So we have in this 18 bar variety pack, you got chocolate chip, cookie dough, peanut butter, chocolate chip, and a double chocolate truffle. It sounds unbelievable. It doesn't really seem like something that would be healthy. He likes it better than Cliff Bar, and evidently when we went through all the ingredients, it was better. But you got, for each bar, it's 220 calories, and I think that it's got a high sugars at 16 grams. I wouldn't be able to eat these. Let's see what the protein is. Protein is 4 grams. Well, you could do better as far as the protein in that. But this is what we have on hand. This is what he eats, and she recommended a Power Bar, and she didn't say which one. I definitely would, something that has peanuts in it, or peanut butter, along those lines. I don't know if oats or oatmeal or anything like that has any type of protein in it, but peanut butter does. So if you have peanut butter snacks that are healthy peanut butter snacks, she recommended that. Acidic type food lasts longer, so whatever it is, whether it's in a bag or a can or a bottle or something like that. I picked tomato soup because we eat tomato soup. Lentils, I used to buy lentils and wasn't really sure what to do with them, but a walk through Aldi and I found this lentil soup, which sounds exciting. I have made lentil soup before. This looks even better. And it's organic, it's non-GMO, and it was under $2.50 for a little over 18 ounces, I think. And it has 8 grams of protein, which is, that's what you're looking for. 18.6 ounces, 8 grams of protein. That'll keep you energetic and alive. This is a surprise pumpkin, but when you have a sick dog, sick cat and that, oftentimes your doctor for your pet will say, give them a little pumpkin. And if you want to eat, warm it up in that, if you have one of those 1-burner or 2-burner cook stoves like we have that has a USB end to it, you could just plug it into one of your battery packs or whatever. You can heat up some pumpkin. I don't know if you can eat it cold out of a can, but it's gluten-free, no GMOs. Libby's is the best. Have that in your stockpile. And to rotate that in and out, because we don't actually use this, we don't have a dog, our cat wouldn't ever eat this. I have this in limited amounts. I rotate it in and out, usually in the fall months. So, because I make pumpkin bars, pumpkin pie, and so on and so forth for the holidays. Tinned meat, so I choose tuna. I don't eat Spam, and I don't eat that chicken, but I do like tuna. So, and I don't know if it's going to show protein, if it's going to tell us. Protein, 23 grams. That's great. So she said meat in a tin, peanuts. So often when you have a pantry or when you're storing things, you should always store them in cool, dark places, and definitely jars. Packages of peanuts or anything like that should be in tin cans or plastic that's not see-through, that the sun can't get in. Beef sticks or any type of stick like this. Beef jerky, beef sticks. Protein. I don't know if I'm going to be able to read the protein on this, but this has quite a bit of protein in it. So you've got to kind of think along things that are nutritious. If you ever watched Big Brother, was it Big Brother? No, it was Survivor. Survivor, all they ate was rice, apparently. In the first few seasons, I don't know if that was true, after, I think we watched it up to season 7 or something. I think there's been like 50 seasons of it. But they were always just eating rice. And that is a good food. It'll keep you somewhat healthy, I think. Definitely keep you full. And you can eat it up to 3 times a day and not get sick of it. Now, if you had these other items in there, maybe you could mix some of this rice, cook up the rice in your 1 or 2 burner, and add it to your lentil soup. You can even add it to tomato soup. I've had it that way too. You can concoct all kinds of things just from this that's sitting here. So, well, not all kinds, but a few things. So it was very interesting to me because in a lot of the different pantries or stockpiles or stashes that I've seen on the internet, I've never seen some large group of healthy stuff. I've seen a lot of frozen stuff. I've seen a lot of Kraft macaroni and cheese or no-name macaroni and cheese. I've seen an awful lot of different processed or boxed meals. But at the end of the day, if you want to come out of whatever situation that you either believe you might be in, you actually realistically might be in, you want to include some things that are going to keep you healthy and keep you energetic because you're going to need the energy. So, beef stick, a protein bar, some good old-fashioned lentil soup. If you have an upset stomach because you're having problems, worry or a nervous stomach, or you're having a problem working up an appetite, definitely try some pumpkin. And always, wherever you go, if you're out and you're not going to have a meal, a Snickers bar, well, that adds sugar to it, or a pack of peanuts. So that's what she advised to always have on hand, included with whatever else it is that you want in your pantry. So that's it for tonight's video. If I said before it's going to be Sunday, I am going to shoot for Saturday for this video, but if you don't see it on Saturday, definitely Sunday, and definitely Tuesday for the Christmas one. Take care, and I'll see you again.